Hi, everybody. This is Susan Clinton, your co-host of Tough to Treat. This is episode 71. And in this episode, Erica and I are really going to take a look at some new ways or some different ways that maybe you haven't considered with using the biopsychosocial approach with treating complex patients. I'm going to talk about some three powerful questions that I use consistently with a lot of my clients and how it helps me really drive them towards the interventions that are going to be the most meaningful. Hang in there with us, and you'll find out some great clinical pearls for pelvic girdle pain and pregnancy as well. Thank you, and enjoy the episode.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Susan Clinton, and I'm here with my co-host, Erica Mello, and we are Tough to Treat. And we are still counting days down in isolation for COVID as both of our practices remain closed. This at the time we're dropping this podcast, or actually not dropping it, but recording it, it's the last day of March. And just had news that things were going to be extended another 30 days for a lot of people out there. So it'll probably be sometime, I think this will drop in May, so happy May to you when you get this. But at this time, we're just kind of spending a little time, more time indoors and socially distancing and talking about some of our tough to treat clients.
Yes. It's
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Susan. No, I was just saying, I'm, sitting here at the same place, looking at the view. I'll never take a view for granted again. It's amazing. It's the little things that you realize in life. You realize the very important things in your life during a crisis.
Yeah, the spring trees are all in bloom here in the Berg. And my street is lit up with beautiful white and pink blossoms.
Oh, that
all
sounds
of our
wonderful.
trees out front. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. It's the springtime here for me is very much like the fall. The colors are brilliant. The forsythia is all ginormous yellow. Looks like fire on the hillsides. It's just really, really pretty.
Yeah.
It's been cool to get out and do a few little walks away from everybody else and see some of this stuff. So
I know. That sounds wonderful. You'll have to post pictures.
I will, most definitely. I will. Okay, so today I'm going to pull up my notes here. We're talking about, I wanted to kind of I kind of wanted to have two discussions in one. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was another case with pelvic girdle pain and pregnancy, but I wanted to do it from a biopsychosocial lens, kind of starting off with the biopsychosocial lens with this person rather than starting off with a mechanical one, although the mechanical exam is part of it. But as we kind of move into telehealth and continue in telehealth, because there's going to be lots of clients who cannot get to us that may decide that you're the practitioner for them across your state, and getting better at this as we all have during COVID, being able to continue to do it. But taking a look at this person was a perfect example because it was somebody that I worked with remotely because that was the best way for us to get together. And she is a young woman. She's 27, and she's a physical therapy assistant, and she got in touch with me because she was having persistent left pelvic girdle pain, particularly closer to the pubic symphysis. She called it pubic symphysis pain, but basically what she described was pain along the entire pubic rami on the left side.
Okay.
And just to kind of just backtrack up just a little bit, I think when we kind of start to look at people from a biopsychosocial lens, if we start off with that lens and kind of take the whole experience into the arena here, some of the things that we want to think about is getting the right questionnaires to people in the very beginning, which can include things that are going to help us inform our practice, such as pain perception, fear, movement, danger, harm, stability. What are their thoughts and beliefs around this stuff?
Yeah.
And some of the forms that I use when it comes to pelvic girdle pain and pregnancy are things like the pelvic girdle pain questionnaire. Yeah, which has been, validated. I think most of the people out there who treat women in pregnancy know that. It's been validated for both the pregnancy and intermediate postpartum population. But there's also other things that can really help inform practice too, which is the pain catastrophization scale and the Tampa kinesiophobia scale.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with an FABQ type scale too. You want to find out about fear avoidance. And in pregnancy, particularly, you want to pay attention to the work scale of the FABQ, because pelvic girdle pain has been associated, a strong risk factor for developing pelvic girdle pain is work dissatisfaction. So
interesting.
I know, right? Isn't that cool? But it can kind of really help. And then any kind of quality of life scale, I think, is also important when we consider this population.
Yeah.
And then after I listen to their story mindfully and do reflections back and just really allow them to tell me their whole story, we'll get into that in a minute, I kind of use 3 powerful questions, and I thought I would share these today. And perhaps, Erica, we can pick it back up on one of our Facebook Lives too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but the 3 powerful questions that I like to use with all of my clients is, what do you think or believe is going on? How did this happen? So I want to get their beliefs right off the bat.
Yeah.
What are they really, what do they believe? Because that's the issue, that's the challenge that you have in front of you, is what belief system are they coming in with? What do they truly believe is going on, or what caused this?
Yes.
The next one is, what are your expectations about management? What would a successful outcome look like to you? So most people would say, I want to be without pain.
Right.
I get that. But if you dig a little deeper, what do you expect is going to go on with us working together? And what do you really want that outcome to look like? And so if you talk to them more in their story and you really get those functional pieces that they're missing in their life, then you can help them link these dots to, so by getting rid of your pain means you'll be able to do what now? Not just get rid of your pain. I get that. That's an important piece, and I'm with you there. But what is that? What's the meaning behind that? Because it's really hard to have a goal if the goal doesn't have any kind of functional meaning for the movement system.
Yeah. I love those questions. I do. I mean,
Yeah.
I do similar.
Right.
I do pretty much the same thing. I mean, I like the fact that you ask, what's a successful outcome? What are your expectations? What do you think is going on?
Right.
Is the great one. I mean, those are,
and that helps you develop and start working towards a therapeutic alliance right away, because if you know what their beliefs are and their expectations are, you know where to meet them.
Yep.
And that's kind of important. It's like, okay, and that helps you determine also if they're in that really pre-contemplative, like I'm not really ready to change phase, or if they're griping and complaining, they're in that contemplation phase, they just don't know what to do about it, or they're in that take action phase. So sometimes they come in and what are your beliefs and what do you expect? It's like, well, they told me to come here. That tells me a lot. That says, wow, this person is really pre-contemplative, and they don't even know why they're sitting in the office or on the phone with me, or on the video with me, or whatever.
Right, and that will totally influence your outcome. I mean, right from the get-go, right?
Right.
I mean, you'll know if they are, copers versus non-copers. I also ask one other question. I ask generally at the end, I've done the whole subjective. I'll ask, is there anything that I have not asked you that you want to tell me? And then
that's
come
great. Those are curious questions, because along in their story, people will say, well, how do you get them to do this or talk? And it's like, get curious. Whenever you just want to jump in and start telling them what to do, get really curious. And that's a great question. It's like, what else do you want to tell me? Or I'm curious about, you talked about a little bit about this and then went on to tell me the rest of the other story. Can you circle back and tell me a little bit more about that? Because they give you hints along the way in their stories. Well, I have all these other things going on too, but I'm here for da 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 da. It's like, I want to know what these other things are. You know, and so that's great the way that you just put that. It's like anything else, you know, and as you start kind of like asking some more questions, like you say it started here, but did you have other things going on like earlier in your life around this issue? You know, have you ever had, you know, pain in this area before? Do you remember back to a time where maybe you know, what other things have happened in your life in your pelvis, you know, besides, you know, being pregnant? You know, has there been anything else going on? Bladder infections, what, you know, anything. I'm just kind of curious. You know, how were your periods? What, you know, can we talk a little bit about menstruation? How was that? Did you have problems with it? Did you have other, you know, did you ever, you know, like in your young life, did you ever fall, you know?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah. So some
I always ask
things.
Yes, I ask also, did you play any sports when you were a child? And some will be like, oh yeah, I did lacrosse, soccer, and some people are like, no, not really. And so you'll know, you'll just know, because you know if they're a gymnast or a swimmer, they're hypermobile and they've had injuries. They had to have when they were kids. So you know, I think it's important to learn about the patient before we put our hands on them.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that's where that comes in. And so then the final question, and you'll see this as I kind of go through this, I'm going to take you through this case so you can kind of see how this unfolded and drove the way that I worked with her, because this has been going on for a while with her and nobody's been able to help her. And so my final thing is, what concerns you the most about this? And then me as Susan, what I usually ask is, deep down in your heart of hearts, what are you worried the most about?
Ooh, I like
and
that.
I just kind of leave them with that. And if you give people time and space to answer this will be so revealing, because it will actually drive the direction of where you're going to go. Because again, it goes back to, what does that successful outcome look like? What's meaningful to them? They're afraid to tell you what they're afraid of.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But when they can begin to bring voice to that and make it tangible, then you have a way of helping them restore, you know, meaning and hope to what they're going through and where they can get to. Yeah. And so we'll see how this kind of unfolds here.
Perfect.
As I pull up my notes here. Okay, so I think I said she was 27. She was 31, sorry.
That's okay.
No, open the notebook and see. She has been pregnant twice. This is her second pregnancy. Wow. She's had one baby who is now 2 years old. And she's been pregnant this time for 36 weeks and everything is fine. There's no complications, very healthy. When you look at this lady, she is just the picture of what you would consider robust health. I mean, just flushy cheeks and, you know, thick hair and bright-eyed and, you know, just healthy, you know, shiny, just really looks healthy, very energetic, happy, bouncy person. In her history, she told me that she had this left growing pain. Like I told you, the left pubic ramus, off and on for the last 3 months. Okay. When I started talking to her, and it's steadily become more chronic. So as her pregnancy has progressed, it mostly is occurring with the following: sitting, getting up and down from the floor, not all of the time though, she'll say, and moving in bed and carrying her son on the stairs.
On what side, or just in carrying, like in front?
She just carrying, just like holding. She didn't really say at that point. And this is her quote that she told me: "I feel like my pubic bone is out of place and I have to do things to make it pop so I can feel better."
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, not good.
but it's important to know that.
Yes, of course.
To know that, because that is a belief of hers that she really is hanging on to right now. And I can't just poo-poo that. I'm going to have to kind of figure out a way around that so that she can begin to start kind of dropping the things into place a little bit. But anyway, other factors, she's a very busy 2-year-old. She works as a physical therapy assistant 3 days a week in an orthopedic outpatient clinic, and her husband travels a lot. So she's home with the child a lot, and values her time with the child very, very much. Her nutrition, she tries to eat healthy, but I don't. I eat my son's same food. I grab and go. It's hard to stop and cook with this pregnancy. So
Oh,
sleeping,
eats her son's food. Okay.
yeah, sleeping less than 4 hours at a time,
Oh boy.
mostly due to her son waking up.
Oh
Pain is
yeah.
not a problem sleeping, but it is with moving around. So her son
Okay.
is the reason that she's up and down half the night. It's not because
Yeah.
she's peeing. It's not because she has, pain. But when she
Right.
does have to get up to care for her son, then she has some, issues moving
Yeah.
around.
Got it.
What brings her joy? Because I always want to know what the joy thing is for most people. And she says, the
Mhm.
thing that brings me the greatest joy in my life is the time that I have with my son to play. And this is where I hurt the most.
There you go.
Okay, so
Connection.
those three powerful questions we
Yep.
went through, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the first one was, what do you think is going on here? And again,
Yep.
she reiterated, my pubic bone is out of place and needs to be popped back in to help me with my pain.
Yep.
Sometimes movement just does that. PT has not been helpful, and the self-mobilization exercises don't seem to have any lasting effect that I do. So, and I said, what are those exercises? I lay down on my back, I bend up both my knees, and one hand is on my knee, and I push back with my knee against my hand. The other one is wrapped around my knee, and I push against my hand that way. In other words, that
Like
the rotational thing or
like
whatever.
a counter strain type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was it. And she says, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't have any lasting effect. There's my window.
Right.
You see that? For all of you out there listening, that's my window. Rather than sitting here and telling her that popping back and forth doesn't really make any difference, there's my window. These things, these mobilization exercises to actually move things in place, what they're designed to do according to her, don't have a lasting effect. So now I've got, that's what I can hang my stuff on. It's like, okay, she already believes that.
Yes.
So that's good. We're there.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
What are your expectations with managing this now with PT? So what is she expecting? She says, actually, it's very low unless you have something new to add.
Oh boy.
Okay. I'm perfectly honest, and that's complaining. That's contemplative.
Yeah.
I want to get better. I have no idea how to do it, but I want to do it. I have also used belts, and I have done lots of stabilization exercises. Do you think it'll get better after I deliver? So she's been told, wear a belt. She's been told you're unstable, do these exercises, and she's been told her pain will get better after she delivers. The first two she is already considered to be lies because they have not helped her.
Okay, question, Susan. She had no problem with her boy, the 2-year-old, when she was pregnant?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. So the belt and the muscle energy, whatever, just hasn't not helped.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she's wearing like a SI belt or a pelvic girdle belt.
Yeah, she's tried it. It hasn't helped.
Okay.
So, but these were the things that she was told. And so this is what I'm wanting. What is she expecting? Well, I've been told this and I've been told this, and they didn't help. The mobilization exercises don't have any lasting effect. So her expectations are low because that's all she knows that PT is.
Yeah.
Right. And so the last thing she can hang her hat on is her doctor told her that, well, your pain's likely to go away after you have your baby. So that's why she asked that question. But I need to know that because it's so important. So then I asked her, in your heart of hearts, what are you worried about the most? And guess what she said?
That she won't be able to have another child? No, I don't know.
Just about as bad.
Oh, wow.
Another PT told me I needed to get on top of this and get this taken care of because she had the same thing and it caused her to fall on the stairs and drop her baby.
Oh my God. Talk about fear. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Can you imagine
like
where
the nervous system
to? Because if you remember back where I have pain, carrying my son on the stairs.
Oh, mine. She does literally, her whole nervous system just got a hijack with that one quote.
Exactly.
Wow.
And her expectations are low, but she's scared to death that she's going to drop her son.
Wow.
That this is going to progress to the point that that's going to happen because it's happened to someone else. So here we go. Definitely going to do an exam, right?
Yeah.
So mechanical exam was unremarkable for really any real increase of symptoms with bend over squats and twisting movements. Didn't really bring things on. Didn't really change anything. It was just unremarkable. She could do all of these things. I'm telling you, you look at this person, you would think there is absolutely nothing wrong. She is so healthy. And, in appearance, just very healthy looking. She did have problems with load transfer, greater on the left than on the right. So she was unable to cope with it as much. And her kind of like wiggly wobbly kind of stuff, hard to hold the balance. On the right,
on
it was
the left side.
better. Yeah, on the left side where the pain was. On the right side, somewhat better, but not great. Okay, but the left was definitely worse. Step up and step downs, there was no symptoms until we added the weight of her child into her arm.
Exactly.
So I said, let's do, because stairs was an issue. Let's do step up and step down. So I can do these pretty good. She would go in like she could do them all day long.
Yeah, like on the Stairmaster.
And her son was running around. This was a virtual appointment. You know, it's like, pick up your child and let's do it. And she goes, oh, that hurts immediately. Okay.
Yep.
Was it loading or was it fear? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we just marked it down and said, there it is.
Yep.
So sitting, pain comes on reportedly after 30 plus minutes. It took me a while to get her to kind of like pay attention to this. And I said, you know, because she kept saying, well, I sit and I do this. And it's like, okay, yeah, but I need to know how long you can sit before you have symptoms.
You mean sitting in the chair or sitting on the floor?
Sitting in a chair, sitting on the floor, sitting anywhere. All of it sitting bothered her no matter what. And that's where I kind of had to get like, okay, but you need to tell me how long. I need more particulars around sitting. So she finally came up with, if I sit longer than 30 minutes, that's a problem. And it's really more when I start to get up to move that it becomes more of a problem. Okay. So strength, she was able to lay on her side and raise her leg up in the air. We couldn't really do a lot of strength testing, but we did some, you know, side step ups and front step ups, and she could handle all of those things. It didn't really look like a huge strength issue to me. You know, there wasn't, and you know, when she squatted, she was right in the middle. You know, when she did these things, she could lunge on either side, no problems. She would say, though, with the lunge, if I was hurting, that might be a problem, but right now it's okay.
When she carried her son, when she did the steps, did she hold him in front of her, or was it on one side? Do you remember?
She held him on the left side.
Okay.
And so, thanks for asking that, because I did ask her to put him on the right side.
Yeah.
And she still had the pain.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, you know, was it weight, like loading? You know, like the increased weight with loading in that thing, or was it fear? I don't know. I just don't know yet. So, you know, she was able to point right at that left groin area for pain. And I told her to actually trace it for me. And she traced the entire pubic rim. So the pubic bone down to the ischial tuberosity, just that whole pubic bone there. All the way through. And I said, anywhere else does it bother you? Nope. You know, doesn't hurt anywhere else. It's just always right there.
And so when she squatted and things like that, did you load the squat at all, or she was just free squat, she was fine?
We did the free squat. I just had this inkling to load her in doing the step up and step downs.
Yeah, totally.
Because I wanted to see what was happening when she put her kid in her arms.
Interesting.
And then, so then range of motion of both hips were within normal limits. I had her lay on her back and she'd move her hips all around. There was some increased sensitivity with hip flexion on the left, you know, so, you know, just a little. It wasn't, you know, anything that was really jumping out like, oh, this is awful.
Right.
So what I needed to do was I needed to start looking at discovery of sitting postures and ways to change that, because that was like what was bothering her the most, and it was interfering most with playtime. So I asked her, I said, show me what happens during playtime with your child. You know, just, he's there with you. Let's just set it up. Take me down to wherever it is you do playtime. Let's just see what's going on. And so we did, and she moved all around, and she was, you know, and she said, but it doesn't hurt me right now because I haven't been sitting here for very long. And I said, okay, but I just want to see what happens with all of this here. So she's on the floor, and then she like crosses her legs, and then she comes up onto both knees, and then she's on both knees as she leans forward to hand her son something. You can imagine. They're all over the floor. She gets up and chases them around and comes back, and all of these different things. And then she goes back to sit again. And I said, if you were to start her, like say, if you were to sit here for how long? She'd say about, 20, 30 minutes. I said, would that start bothering you, that position? Oh yeah. And then I'd have to try to figure out how to move around and pop my pubic bone so it would feel better. And I said, and are you successful with that? And she goes, well, sometimes. It's like, okay. So I said, where else do you sit in your life? So we started having a conversation around that. And she said, I sit in the car. And I said, and does it bother you to drive to work? No, because I don't sit for 30 minutes. So I'm
Hmm.
never in the car longer than 15, 20 minutes. So it's never a problem.
Okay.
Like, okay. And I said, at work, tell me about work and working with clients and the different kinds of things. And she said, it's interesting because I don't have this problem at work. And I said, really? I said, do you sit at work? And she goes, yeah. And I said, what do you sit on? And then she just looked at me and she goes, I sit on a stool. I said, interesting.
She
And she
sits
said,
on the
yeah,
stool.
it is, isn't
Yes, of
it?
course.
And so she came up with it. I didn't have to. She goes, so do you think if I sit on a rolling stool playing with my son, this will be better? I said, I don't know. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
brilliant that she thought of it, but
Yeah.
she made the connections herself, which was really good. And I said,
Yeah.
I said, who knows? I said, if it can get you in a position to where you can do all the things you want to do and we can decrease the sensitivity around the area,
Yeah.
I'm in. I think that's probably a great thing to do. And so she goes, well, what about this popping thing? And I said, well, do you have any other joints in your body that pop? I was taking a gamble here, folks. Because, I can hear some of you out there, they're going, no.
Oh, we all do. Come on. I do. I've got clunking joints too.
She goes, yeah, my shoulder, and I can pop it in and out and this.
Oh,
and
boy.
And then she just looked at me and she said, what are you getting at? And I said, I'm just wondering if maybe the popping, because it's not always helpful or it doesn't always occur, using her words, that it might be you may be associating it with the pain relief, but it doesn't always give you pain relief, or you can't always make it happen and you get relief. I'm just wondering if it just occurs just because, like your shoulder, it occurs.
Right.
It doesn't really have anything to do with the sensitivity, especially since those exercises that you were given to put things into place don't help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
she goes, oh, so you mean like if I pop it may just mean like me popping my shoulder and just kind of moving on. And
right.
It's like, maybe, I'm not going to squash her narrative with mine, but what I'm going to do is try to open up the book so she can start to read some new narratives.
Right.
So she can, like how she wants to change her belief program.
Right. She can,
in her head.
Exactly. She can clinically reason in her own way, or reason out her issues. With your questioning and your prodding, so to speak. Okay, keep going.
So it was good. She was feeling pretty good about things at this point, and I said, let's just have a conversation about some of the other little things that can be going on. And I said, and here's some interesting things we're learning about pelvic girdle pain in pregnancy is that it may not be because that whole belief system that things are loose and have to be popped into place and are out of place. I said, actually, some of the literature is driving to the fact that there's over recruitment going on around this area, and that over recruitment may be what's driving the sensitization, the sensitivity and some of the stuff there.
You mean over recruitment of the pelvic floor?
Of the pelvic
floor,
anything. Of the gluteus muscles, of the abdominal muscles. And we're learning this through some of the stuff, getting down and looking at interventions that do work and interventions that don't work. And a lot of these stabilization interventions, in the literature, don't carry much water. They don't really work. And so looking at some of the newer, the newer questionnaires and things like that are kind of driving more of a hyper recruitment issue that's associated with pain anyway. We already know that if somebody has pain, they've got muscles that are overworking and muscles that are underworking, inhibited or facilitated, right? The old words of the old days. So we talked a little bit about that, and I said, what? And the interesting thing is at this time of this hormonal shift in your body, this pregnancy is way different from your first one, isn't it? And she goes, yeah. And I think probably part of it is because, and then she just looked at me and she goes, in my first pregnancy, I had time to rest, I had time to eat, I had time to sleep, and she goes, I don't have that now.
Yeah.
And I said, I find that kind of interesting because we do know that if you don't get a lot of sleep, it can drive. And she said she kind of understood the whole idea. It kind of can drive your response to stress to be a little bit more negative and perhaps maybe positive, just because the serotonin isn't getting up to your brain as much.
Yep.
I said, the eating thing is hugely important, because if you're not getting fed well or fed with, some really good dense nutrients, that can drive some issues, inflammatory issues from your gut. It could be driving some of this. Now, why is it just on the left side? Who knows? Maybe, once upon a time something happened,
Yeah.
and, and that left side just had a little bit of a sensitivity get set up, and now it's being a little bit hyperblown. Maybe it's because you
Yep.
carry your son on the left side. I said, we could debate that issue all day long. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. What we want to do is try to get this to settle down. So so we talked a little bit. I said, if you think about, like, if we can optimize what you can do within this situation, there are things we have control over and things we don't. You don't have control over the fact that you have a 2-year-old in your life. And in fact, that brings you joy. So that's not an issue, but let's control the things we can. And I said, so if you're only sleeping 4 hours, what time do you go to bed? Or less than 4
Mhm.
hours. What time do you go to bed? Well, usually not till about 11:30 at night. And I said, well, if we can think about this a little bit, what time does your son go to bed? He goes to bed at
Right.
7:30. And I said, what would it look like if you actually could those 4 hours that you get to sleep, if you actually
Mhm.
could capture them around the time where we know that it's going to be the most physiological useful for your body, like maybe between those hours of 10 and 2 that we know is when we have the best physiological response to sleep.
Mhm.
Because people can have 9 hours of sleep, and if they don't go to bed till 2 in the morning, they sleep for 9
Mhm.
hours, they wake up unrested. It's
Yep.
because they kind of miss their circadian rhythm around there. And that's
Yep.
some of the things we're learning about sleep. And so she kind of bargained out that she would try to get to bed by, 10ish. So she'd be asleep by 10:30. And, so she could, so I said, if that's the sleep you're going to get, let's get the most optimum sleep we can. And
Mhm.
then she kind of started thinking about, some ways to get some better superfoods in, to maybe make some smoothies ahead of time so she can grab those, like when she's feeding her son, and not grab his sugary, funky food that he's eating
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
herself, So she had a little bit of work to do there, and she was going to kind of take that and optimize it. And then the other thing that we kind of got into was, making sure she's not constipated,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can't clear metabolites if you're constipated, and that can drive inflammatory stuff too, and the
Yeah.
pelvic girdle issue. So she was going to start working on that with a little bit of some ground flaxseed and getting a little more water in. She was moving well. There wasn't any problem with her getting movement in. She was doing all of that. And then she was going to start paying attention to her sitting. The final thing that we did a lot in this first visit, but the
Mhm.
final thing we did was I said, let's deal with this stare issue, because I know that scares the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. I mean, she was like just so perky, so into all
Oh.
of this. And
Mhm.
so I said, you know, before you pick up, because her son was she had him in a playpen. He was playing quietly. I said, how much does he weigh? She said, he weighs about 30 pounds. And I said, do you have something that weighs close to that you can pick up and carry up the stairs?
Yep.
And so she rummaged around and went and grabbed one of her grocery sacks and put a whole bunch of cans and stuff in it, so it would weigh a lot.
Yep.
And I said, just tie it up and hold it next to you like you would your son. So she did. And she went up and down the stairs, and she came down, and she goes, it doesn't hurt as bad as my son, but I think it's because he wiggles around a lot. And I said, okay. But I said, did it hurt at all? And she goes, yeah, when I was starting to get to the top of the stairs. And I said, point your camera to the stairs so I can watch you go up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
And what happens is, as she starts to go up, she actually leans backwards, which is kind of interesting, because when you
Oh.
lean forward
Lean
to go up,
forwards. Yes.
she has a tendency to lean backwards going up and going down. So we just kind of played around with shifting her posture
Mhm.
at the
Yep.
feet, your favorite place to start.
Of course.
Starting at the feet and doing a little, kind of heel lift, and, kind of, just shifting enough to
Mhm.
let her feel, you feel a little bit more balanced forward or a little bit more balanced backwards. You tell me. And what she actually felt was, as she began to do the little bit of center of mass shift forward, she just felt like she could do it better.
Yes.
And it was like,
Yeah.
because I tried to get her away from the word stable. It's like, you're not unstable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We want to get, there's just positions of performance that work better. And this is just
Right.
you could get a better performance for you if you shift forward. Now, your neighbor may do better if she shifts backwards. We don't know
Right.
until we try it.
And it
So,
basically shifts. It turns on certain muscles, and it gives you a better neuromuscular pattern around the pelvis.
right.
For her, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we played around with some variants with that, and I got her to kind of figure out, and then she went and grabbed her son, and she tried it with him, and you could just see the relief on her face. You know, and I
Aw.
didn't even bring it up again. I didn't have to. She was internalizing all of this. Like, she's helping me get over my fear of carrying my son on the stairs. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, David Butler would say, I'm getting you to fall back in love with this movement activity.
Right. I love it.
No, exactly. And so and I said, just play around with that. And just remember when you start to feel that you have the power to change, and just kind of, you know, even if you just rock back and forth a couple of times and see if that makes it easier for you. So,
Right. And you're just changing her relationship to gravity,
right.
via the feet and with her child. And
Mm-hmm.
her body just explores how gravity uh, takes her backwards, forwards. And I think that's
Exactly.
a good thing.
Exactly. Isn't that cool? But anyway, I
Yeah.
can hear all the people out there going, you know, well, I would have looked at bed mobility, and what about that, and why about this, and,
Mm,
you know,
or
transitional
special
movements.
tests
Well,
or pelvic
well,
girdle or
we
whatever.
got through those things, but I needed to get to the things that matter to her the most,
Yes, that's why you
and
asked
that
those
was
questions.
sitting for her son with her son, and during playtime, and being able to get on those stairs.
Yep.
So here's the update. So I said, go away, mess with this for a bit, email me, let me know how you're doing, and we'll hop on another call. So 3 weeks later, you know, a couple of emails back and forth, we got on another virtual appointment. And
Mm-hmm.
this is her thing that she said. I wrote it down in her chart just this way. I've been more conscious of changing positions and using the rolling stool in the basement to keep up with the toddler, and I have less growing pain. Some days I have more sharp pain in the left glute, but I attribute that to when I have to do a lot of bending over, such as bath time and lifting my son from a bent position. So I'm working on making bath time a little bit more ergonomic as well, and it seems to be helping those symptoms.
Great. Great.
So the name of the game here that we have done as PTs is I have given her self-efficacy. I've
Mm-hmm.
given her the return to taking care of herself, and she is figuring out how to overcome symptoms herself.
Yeah, you set her up for success from the get-go,
And she
from the
took it
first visit.
and took it to a novel situation. This is what we can do for our clients. This
Yeah.
is where we need to kind of like back off a little bit and really let them, you know, have much more, let them drive the treatment session better. She had no idea she was driving the treatment session in the beginning. She had no idea, but I let her do it, you know, because I needed to know what was important to her and what she needed to work on. And we could have always gone back to bed mobility. You know, that's not the issue anymore. I'm having less
No,
growing pain. It's better. She
it
doesn't
didn't matter
care.
to her.
She's
Exactly.
working on it. So,
Yeah.
but she was now getting this other little thing that was coming up. And we had a podcast about this, what, 2 or 3 podcasts ago, about what do you
About
do when one thing gets better, but the next thing starts up,
yes,
right?
the one that's out now. It's
Yeah.
69, I think it was,
Yeah,
or
yeah, exactly. And
the
so
high performance
this is
one.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
somebody else now. Now she's paying attention and she feels this, and but she's noticing when it happens. And
Yeah.
instead of saying, I'm unstable, this is bad, now my pain is spreading, now it's worse, now it's over here, she's saying, she's using the word ergonomics. What at the end of the day, I can't change everybody's language around their
Mhm.
pain, but
Mhm.
I don't care I don't care what word she used, because what was standing out here was that I'm figuring out how to do it different so it doesn't hurt.
Right. Right. Exactly. And those
So,
questions are so important because based on that drives treatment, that sets her up for success because it sets up her expectations. When your expectations and her expectations don't matter, that's not a
mhm,
recipe for a good
right,
for success
right.
at all. Especially when the person believes one thing and that you need to either work with those sets of beliefs and try, depending if they're healthy or not. If they're unhealthy, you need to make them healthy, and you need to find out what matters to her most. I mean, if you ask people what positions bother them, they're going to give you
Mhm,
a litany of positions.
mhm,
Some may be meaningful or not meaningful, but when
mhm,
you ask, what is a successful outcome for you, being able to play with her child is like the number one thing, and getting her
mhm,
involved in that problem solving scenario makes your job much easier, or makes our jobs easier, because we know what is meaningful for them and we're going to drive treatment to that. And yes, if all of a sudden, yes, sitting on the floor playing with my child or on the stool with my child feels better, but now I've got the bath thing, I'm like, great, let's work on that now.
mhm.
You have success in one area, and I think
So
even if the success,
so my curious questions for her, I agree with you completely. My curious question for her is, what are you doing that's making it better? Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you, so you can get into and turn that into a treatment session.
Yeah.
She felt like she was okay. I said, check back with me. Let me know what's happening then. We talked a little bit about it. She was doing this. She figured out this. She figured out a different way. She was figuring out a different way. And, and part of it is that her belly is getting bigger. And she's had to just move in different, she was trying to move the same way that she did with a bigger belly. And the load was away from her, like lifting her son out of the tub. And so she just realized that she could just perch herself on the side of the tub and get down and lift her son up. And it didn't bother her a bit. It's like, I could have, helped her figure that out, but she figured it out herself. So we just talked a little bit more about that. And was she okay? And how was it going on the stairs? The stairs were doing well. She was having much less pain. She said, she realizes that it had nothing to do with popping her, pelvic at all, that sometimes it would pop and sometimes it wouldn't, but her pain overall was better, and she quit worrying about trying to make it pop. And, so she was fine. And, the one thing I did want to know is I did ask her what was happening around sleep. And she said that what she noticed was that when she went to bed earlier, not only was she sleeping better, but she was sleeping longer because her son was still waking up at the same time, but she was going to bed earlier, so she was getting more sleep before he woke up.
Yeah.
So
that's key.
Was it more sleep or was it sleep at the right time? Who knows? Doesn't matter. She loved it. It was a change for her, and she really did not feel as exhausted as she didn't feel as tired, on the nights that he was waking up. And she said that's getting better, of course. And he's 2. The kids go through things. They go through periods of time where they don't sleep, and they go through periods of time where you can't wake them up to save their soul.
I know.
So they just you got to be able to have the variance around it with them.
Yeah.
So
I think the stool is key. Why was the stool better? I don't know. Maybe we should closer to the floor. Who knows? Maybe we posture ourselves very differently on different seating, on different sitting.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we don't know.
Right.
I mean, we can make a biomechanical argument that, with her hips being flexed up more, that drove the sensitivity more. I quite frankly, I don't know. I don't know what's more, sitting on the stool and leaning forward, or sitting cross-legged and leaning forward. That, to me, it doesn't really, whatever. She felt better on the stool, so sit on the stool.
Yeah.
I said, but the one thing I wanted her to understand was she wasn't stuck on the stool for the rest of her life.
Right.
I said, it's just that if you're going to be there for a long period of time, get off the floor and sit on the stool for a while. Get on the stool, sit on the floor for a while. Vary it up, just like you're doing with going up and down the stairs.
Right.
No, I didn't want her to think all I can do is sit on the stool, because that's what our clients think, right? I can never bend over again, because when I hurt my back, the doctor told me never to bend over.
Right.
And what they meant was, right now when you're in this acute phase, just don't do the things that aggravate it.
Right.
That they take that in and they go, I can never bend the rest of my life ever, because it's going to give me back pain.
Yeah.
So, I didn't want her to feel, that she could never sit on the floor again. It was just like, if you feel okay in the stool, sit on the stool, sit on the floor.
Right.
But the rule is, stay away from the mark of where you start to get pain. Let's don't drive that sensitivity further. Let's keep exposing you closer to the edge of it.
Yeah.
And, and see if we can't get your sitting time longer so that you're not hurting as much.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, when you hear them trying to pop their pubic rami or doing these muscle energy techniques that we all know, sometimes they may help, sometimes they may not. Everybody's different. But when someone keeps doing something over and over and over again, and it's not helping, they're going to get the same problem they've always got, which is being in dysfunction. So half the problem is just telling these people, or not telling them, working with them, because it's truly a collaborative process between us and the patient. It's a collaboration, and their input matters, right? So at the end of the day, trying to get them to sort of understand that maybe what they're doing isn't helpful, and stop doing that is just a checkbox to check off, so to speak. That will help, because that changes their beliefs once they find that they're getting better, and this wasn't helping. I know it's not helping, but I keep doing it. But now this is helping. So I think that the subjective, I mean, I take quite a long time in my subjective, as I'm sure
Yep.
you do as well. So you really don't gain that opportunity in the second visit. You need to sort of
Yeah.
establish that trust in the first visit and a rapport with your patient. And that's
Mm-hmm.
so important. The objective, you can finish up the next time. And I
That's
often
right.
do.
That's right.
So,
The
you know,
therapeutic alliance is what's key. You know, it
yep,
really is, because that's where
yep,
you're going to help them regain their self-efficacy, you know, for the most part,
yep,
and not feel a
yep,
victim of pregnancy, not feel a victim of hormones, not feel a victim of everything they told me didn't work. So now, you know, like she was, you know, she was honest. You know, my expectations are low unless you
yeah,
have something new to offer, because the stabilization exercises didn't work, the belt didn't help, and the only other thing I'm hearing is that maybe it'll get better after delivery. So what do you think?
yeah,
And it wasn't trying to
yeah,
be snarky. She just was like, nothing's helped,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? So it was,
yeah,
it was good. It was good.
yeah. Yeah, it's a great story. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
sharing. Awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here we go.
Here we go again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody. Let us know what you think. Sign up. Join us at our Facebook group. Most importantly, join us on our email list, as we have some cool things that we're rolling out.
ToughToTreat.com.
Yep, that's going to only be coming out on our email list. So go to ToughToTreat.com, as Erica says, and sign up. It's just too wieldy to go into too many places to put these things out there. So we're just keeping it simple. The email list is the best place for us to do that. And we hope you have a very happy day and great success working with your clients from a biopsychosocial perspective.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.